Okay, good evening. Thank you everybody for coming once again for our fourth shiur on Perek Hakones that we're learning in Holy Torah 6th grade. Thank you again, Rabbi Greenwald, for hosting and for the beautiful spread. It's greatly appreciated. So today's shiur, Mirza Hashem, will be Geshmaka shiur. It's a real Gemara. There's some questions, some answers, Kal V'chaimers. We're going to get into the real heart of things, Mirza Hashem. And it will be very necessary for today's shiur just to recap where we're holding, of course. Like when we're in the middle of a sugya, we need to do that, and to give a couple of hakdamas. And some of this you might know, but some of this, you might find interesting, hopefully. So, first hakdama was like this. First hakdama is we're in the middle of a sugya about a shomer aveda. If somebody finds an aveda, and then he's meant to keep on announcing it until he finds the owner. While he's guarding that aveda, while it's in his possession, what din does he have? Does he have a din of a shemechinam or a din of a shemesachar? It was a machlekes on the last on Nun Vav Amud Beis. We're on Nun Zayin Amud Aleph on the bottom. This was on Nun Vav Amud Beis. It's machlekes between Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi said shemechinam. He gave his reason. Rabbi Yosef said shemesachar. He gave his reasons. So far on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, we're on the bottom of it. But what's been happening is there's been a few questions back and forth. Rabbi Yosef challenged Rabbi a few times from Brises. One Brise wrote a question, he answered. Another Brise he answered. Another Brise he answered. Then we went the other way from another Brise, and now we're holding on the bottom of the page where we continue to try to bring a raya one way or another. If a shomer aveda has a din like a shomer chinam, or if a shomer aveda has a din like a shomer sachar. So that's the first hakdama that's necessary for tonight. The second hakdama that's necessary for tonight is just a very brief reminder of what the concept of the Daled Shomer Mar. So the Daled Shomer Mar, there's four shomer. One is the shomer chinam, he guards for free. Shomer sachar, he pays to guard your thing. There's the seicher, where he actually pays you, because he's renting the thing from you. So he pays you, the money's going the other way, but you get to use the item. But while you're using the item, of course, you need to take good care of it. And then there's the shayel, where there's no money involved. It's like the flip of a shomer. It's like the shomer chinam who gets to use it. Like this guy's mom is a freeloader. Like he's or whatever. We don't have to put it that way. But basically, he gets the item. He asks for it. Not that the other guy has to please watch it. He went to the other guy and said, "Can I please borrow your animal?" And he gets to make full use of it. And he's not just guarding it. He's actually using it and enjoying it for free. And of course, while he's doing that, he has to protect it. So what is the halacha of the shomer chinam, shomer sachar, seicher, and shayel? So we're going to focus on three main categories. There are other specifics like meisa machmas malacha or baal of imai. We're not going to get into those details, but there's three main categories. There's the pshia, when you were negligent, or if you took it yourself, which is called shlichus yad, like you yourself, ate it, broke it, used it, or you were just negligent with this thing, pshia. Then there's a middle category called gneva v'adveda, got lost or stolen. And then there's a third category called the einus, where something, extremely unusual. Einus literally means forced, but it also means like something that you couldn't prevent. An einus happened. So we have the pshia, the gneva v'aveda, and the einus, three levels. So pshia, everybody's chayiv on pshia. Even a shomer chinam, who's the guy who's watching for free, gets no benefit. He's doing you a favor. Pshia, you can't do. So pshia, everybody's chayiv. And that's the shomer chinam, shomer sachar, seicher, shayel, all chayiv on pshia. Gneva v'aveda, it will depend. The shomer chinam's pater gneva v'aveda. The shomer sachar is going to be chayiv on gneva v'aveda. And the shayel, of course, is chayiv on gneva v'aveda. And einus, when an einus happens, only the shayel is chayiv. The shayel is going to be chayiv on everything. The shayel is chayiv on pshia. The shayel is chayiv on gneva v'aveda. He's chayiv on einsim also. And the shomer chinam is pater and everything besides for pshia. And the shomer sachar is in between. He's chayiv on pshia. He's also chayiv on nigneva avda gneva v'aveda. When it comes to einus, he's going to be pater. So that's the second hakdama. Just a reminder about the four shomrim and that they're stricter, pshia, gneva v'aveda, and einus. The third hakdama is about the concept of kaifel. So kaifel is an interesting concept, and I want to speak about it for a moment before we go into today's Gemara. So kaifel means to pay double, and it's a gzeirus hakasav ultimately that by a ganav, specifically if somebody stole, and then he gets caught, and he has to be busted. Like in other words, if he's maida and he comes forward, this doesn't apply. But if he stole, and then we took him to Bezdin and we say, we know that you stole, and it was Edom against him, and he denies that he stole, and he swears that he didn't steal, and then we're able to prove that he stole. Now when he pays, he has to pay back double, he has to pay kaifel. And it's exeris akasa that only a ganav pays kaifel. A gazlan who's similar to a ganav, I'm going to talk about the difference. A gazlan does not pay kaifel. Or if, let's say, you're just lying. In other words, I lent you $100 and you're denying it. No, you never lent me the money, right? So you're denying it, and then we prove that you're lying. Really, we have testimony. It's on camera that you borrowed the money, so you don't pay kaifel. You just pay the money back. A gazlan just pays the money back. Any other incident that the guy somehow has the money, and if I damage your property, right? If I damage your property and we prove that my animal and I was at fault to damage your property, I pay you back. We don't pay kaifel. The idea that I pay you back and I pay you back double only applies to a ganav. The real chiddush of it is that it doesn't go to a gazlan. So what's the difference between a ganav and a gazlan? The ganav is sneaky. And he just breaks in at night. He doesn't plan to confront you. He plans to just go steal your possessions without you realizing. And the gazlan is the brazen thief, does the hold up, comes over to you whether he has a weapon, perhaps or not. He's a strong person, and he does a hold up in you, demands your money, and steals from you in broad daylight, in the middle of the street. He has no problem confronting you. And a gazlan just has to do v'hishav as exel. He does not pay kaifel. So only a ganav has to pay kaifel. Now, so for a moment, not that it's so important for today's Gemara to know this part, but once we're talking about it, let's elaborate a little bit. So for a moment, let's understand what is the function of kaifel. So there's a mashal that I once saw from the Dubner Maggid about by Eidim Zaymimim, which I don't want to get into Eidim Zaymimim now, but by Eidim Zaymimim, there's a special halacha, you have to do to them what they attempted to do. So the Dubner Maggid brings a very interesting mashal. He says one time there was a story. Reuven is going down Kingston Avenue and he goes over to Shimon and he slaps Shimon across the face. Middle of the blue, middle of the day, slaps him. Shimon's really angry. So he goes to Bezdin, he takes Reuven to Bezdin, he says, Bezdin, here's Eidim, Reuven slapped me across the face, middle of the day for no reason. And it was painful and it was embarrassing. And Bezdin says, okay, we hear the case, Reuven slapped Shimon, it's an undisputed story, there's proof. Give us a few hours, let us think about it, let us think what to do. Come back 2 p.m. They come back 2 p.m. Reuven and Shimon. Bezdin says, we're ready. We have our psak din. Everybody, here's the psak din. Psak din is, Shimon, you could do to Reuven what he did to you. Shimon goes over to Reuven, he slaps him across the face once, and then he goes and he slaps him across the face a second time. Everybody in the courtroom gasps. What are you doing? He said you could do to him what he did to you. Why are you slapping him twice? He's like, that's exactly it. What do you mean? The first slap that I gave him, he deserved. He gave me a slap. I owe him a slap back. The second slap is I did to him what he did to me. And for no reason, out of the blue, you go and you slap the guy. The first slap is not called that he did to me what I did to him. Das kommt him. The second slap is I did to him what he did to me. Right? So it's a mashal from the Dubner Maggid. So the Mefarshim explained the idea of kaifel is it's really mida connected mida. You tried stealing $100 from this guy. You're going to have to now lose $100. If we just tell you pay back, you didn't lose money. I stole $100. I tell you pay back. So you paid back. We didn't get punished. Kaifel, the reason why the number is kaifel is because we want to do mida connected mida. You tried stealing from the person $100. Now you're going to have to lose $100. What you tried doing to the person will have to happen to you. So that's the explanation of why kaifel. But why only the ganav pays kaifel, not the other people? So for that, there's many different biurim. So first of all, there's the famous one, I believe it's a straight up Gemara, that says that the reason why the Ganav gets punished more is because the Ganav, he makes people more important than Hashem. So there's a certain level of kfira. Because Hashem, he's not scared of. People, he's scared of. So he doesn't want to steal in public. He only goes at night and he sneaks and he wears a mask and he steals. But Hashem, he's not scared of. So that person, he's a bigger chayte. The other guy, he's careless. So he goes out and he steals in public. He doesn't make people more important than Hashem. He's a person who doesn't care altogether. The Ganev, he's embarrassed of people. He's not embarrassed of Hashem. He's a bissel erger. That's one of the famous reasons. Another one of the reasons this is from the Rambam in Meir Nevuchim. The Rambam says that Ganev is more common. Gazlan is very rare. Somebody comes and does a Gazlan. Because Ganev is more common, we had to make a deterrence that you shouldn't steal. So we made the punishment harsher. If you're going to steal, you're going to pay back. So, but one thing is clear: it's exeris hakasa. I mean, these are all reasons we could explain why the Torah said that only a ganav pays kaifel. It's mida connected mida, and why we only made this punishment that you shall lose out by a ganav. Other people just they do tashlumin. They don't get a knas. They just pay back. They don't have to now not go ahead and lose money. Why only the gazlan? And there's also other reasons given of why specifically the ganav is the one who loses out money. But what we need to remember is that this is a Metzias, this is the halacha. Only a Ganav pays Kaifel, a Gazlan absolutely does not pay Kaifel, neither does anybody else, not the Mazik, and not the Leiva, not the Leiva who denied the money, not the Nazik, and not the Gazlan, and any other situation. There's no Kaifel involved. Only specifically by Ganav, who's the sneaky guy, and he goes and he steals. Okay. So now we can get into today's Gemara, and before the next tickle, we're going to have to make another hakdama about how Kal V'Chomer works, but we'll get to that. So now let's actually start. We're on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, and we're holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the bottom. Amarle Abaye le Rav Yosef. So Abaye is going to challenge Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was the one who said on the page before that a Shomer Aveda has a din of a Shomer Sachar. If you have a Shomer Aveda, you have a din of a Shomer Sachar. Abaye is going to challenge Rav Yosef and say, how could you say that? Now, interesting, up until here, we've always brought down Esri, we're bringing down a Brisa. We know an Amira cannot argue with a Brisa. You checkmate, can't argue with a Brisa. Here, we're not going to bring down a Brisa, but we're going to bring down something from the name of Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan was one of the greatest Amirayim. He was from the first Doyer of the Amirayim. We have a lot of halachas in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. And if you're Abaye or you're Rav Yosef and you're in the 4th generation of Amirayim, and you live, many decades later, you could potentially argue with Rabbi Yechanan because you're both Amirayim, but you don't like to. It's not something that you want to do. So when you have a din in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, it's not geschmack for Rav Yosef to be opposing Rabbi Yechanan. So we're going to prove now from a din of Rabbi Yechanan, it seems to be a solid proof that a Shomer Aved has a din of a Shomer Chinam, and it's going to be a problem for Rabbi Yosef now to sit with that. So Amarle Abaye le Rav Yosef, 9 lines in the bottom. Abaye tells Rav Yosef, Va'at loy tisbira the Shomer Aved k'Shomer Chinam, and you don't hold that a Shomer Aved has a din like a Shomer Chinam. We have this din that Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rav Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Hatoyin Tainis Ganav Aveda. I'm going to elaborate about this in a minute, but first we're going to do inside. Somebody who claims the Taina that this thing was stolen from him, he was a Shomer Aveda, and he claims that it was stolen from him. So then he gets caught. Really, he himself was the Ganav. He has it in his house. So Mishalim Tashlumei Kaifel, he has to pay Kaifel. If you want to hold that a Shomer Aved has a din of a Shomer Sachar, why should he pay Kaifel? You should have to just pay back. What's going on over here? So besides for the Xeris Akasa that we were mocked in before, that a Ganav pays Kaifel, we have another limud. Rashi brings it down, it's another Gemara. We have a special limud that if somebody is Tayin Tainas Ganav, right? I come over to you, I say, where's my Aveda? Or where's my object? Right? Let's say you're my Shomer. And I come over to you and say, where's the thing? Give it back to me. And you claim, sorry, Nignava, got lost. It got stolen. You claim that it was stolen. And they take you to Bezdin and say, got to return this to me, whether it's my Aveda or my Pikadain. The guy goes to Bezdin, he swears, I swear that this thing was Nignava. Okay? Because he has to swear in order to be Pater. And he's claiming Nignava because he wants to make himself Pater. But then we see that he himself just held on to it. It never really got stolen. So he's a Tayin Tainas Ganev. So this person also pays Kaifel. Special limit from the Psukim of Kaifel that a Tayin Tainas Ganev also pays Kaifel. Just like when it's actually a Ganev and we catch the Ganev, he pays Kaifel. The person who's Tayin Tainas Ganev and he himself is holding on to the object and then we catch him, he also has to pay Kaifel. Whether he's a Shomer Pekadin, like which a regular case of a Shomer, or we even have a special limit to teach us that applies to Shomer Aveda. That a Shomer Aveda, when you're tying is going to be paid kaif. So because he's stealing, basically. Yeah, but it's Xeris Akasa that it's only if he's stealing because he claims that it was Nignava. If he'll say Nigzala, if he'll say there was a hurricane, if he'll say the dog ate it, if he'll say some other story, then he'll have to pay back if we caught him stealing. But he'll only pay kaifel if he was tying is going to special. It's along the same Xeris Akasa. So now the din of Rav Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yechanan is as follows: you have a guy who's watching an Aveda, and the guy who lost it finds out, Reuven has my Aveda. So he goes over to Reuven and he says, "I heard you have my Aveda. I've been looking for it. Can I please have it back?" Reuven says, "Yeah, I'm so sorry, by the way, but since I found it and I've been holding on to it, waiting for you to come, it got stolen." Okay, so we go to Bezdin. Now, for him to be pater, he has to swear that it got stolen. Can't just claim things. So the halach is you go to Bezdin, and Reuven swears, I swear that this thing got stolen. Now we bring Eidim that have proof that Reuven himself has it still, and it's in his hands, and he's making use of it, and that he lied in court. So now he was a tain as ganav, but really v'nimtza b'yadai. So now this person has to go ahead and pay kaifel. So from here we have a proof that a shemer veda has a din like a shemer chinam. Why? Because when do you pay kaifel? You only pay kaifel when you try to make yourself pater, and now you lied, you really stole, you're busted. Oh, pay back twice, right? You got to pay back, and I'm either connected me. You got to pay back that extra time. If a shemer aveda is like a shemer sachar, so you come over. Imagine again, you go over to the Reuven, say, "Where's my aveda?" He says, "Sorry, it got stolen." He's not making himself pater. If he has a din like a shemer sachar, he says, "Sorry, it got stolen." He has to actually go and pay back the value of the aveda, the keren, the initial value of what it cost was $100. He had to pay back $100. So why would it be kaifel if it's v'nimtza b'yadai that we busted that he was lying? Pay kaifel. Initially, when he said nignava, right away he's implicating himself. He's making himself chayiv that it was nignava from his property, and he has to pay. He's being minded to pay. There's no kaifel later on. From the fact that we see that Rabbi Yehoshua said that the guy who was tain his garment, and then later Eidim came and we caught him, that now he's going to pay kaifel, means that initially when he was claiming that it was stolen, he was exempting himself. Now that we caught him, pay kaifel, because tain his garment is a din like a garment, and you're going to pay kaifel. But it means initially he was exempting himself. How? Because a shemer aveda has to be that a shemer aveda has a din like a shemer chinam. Only a shemer chinam is pater and gneva aveda. So you're coming over to the shemer aveda, and you're saying, where is my aveda? And he says, nignava. He's exempting himself. Now when we catch him, he has to pay kaifel. But if he had a din of a shemer sachar, he was never exempting himself. Of course, there's no kaifel later down the road. Kaifel only comes when you're initially trying to get away with something. And especially according to the Akdama, we explained, only when you were trying to hurt someone else, now we, so to say, hurt you back. But you don't pay kaifel if you initially paid up what you owed. So here we have a rock solid proof, seems to be, from the case of Rabbi Yehoshua, that a shemer veda clearly has the din of a shemer chinam. Let's do that again inside the Gemara.
Lose money because shemer chinam.
Yeah, only a shemer chinam who claims nignava. Exactly, he's just paid. If I'm a shemer sachar say it was stolen, fine. So give me the money. You're right away making yourself chayiv. So the great proof from here. So now that we explained it, let's do it back inside again. So he says, you don't hold that a shemer chinam is like a shemer sachar, like that a shemer veda is like a shemer chinam. So a special day that a tayin tainas ganiv aveda, that even by an aveda, when somebody's tayin tainas ganiv, we have a special halacha that you're mashal tashlemi kaifel. If he gets caught, he's going to pay kaifel. If you want to hold that a shemer aveda has a din like a shemer sachar, so then am I mashal tashlemi kaifel? Why is he paying kaifel later when he gets caught? Initially, when he claimed the story of Nignava, he should have had to pay Karen, and there won't be any kaifel down the line. So from the fact that there is kaifel down the line, is a raya that he has the din like the shemer chinam. So now Rav Yosef is stuck, and he has to defend himself against this very strong challenge. So Rav Yosef is going to get creative. Rav Yosef is going to say as follows. Rav Yosef is going to say that din of Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yehoshua is talking about only in a unique case. It's not a regular case of a tayin tainas ganav. It's talking about the shemer aveda. When we approached him and said, "Hey, where's my aveda?" He said that it got stolen with listim azoyan, armed robbers. Now, what's armed robbers? It's different than a gazlan. There's an in-between case that we're creating over here. A ganav is a sneaky guy who breaks into your house at night, breaks into your garage, or goes to your summer home and steals something. Doesn't want to confront you. The gazlan is, is the smash and grabs that happen right now all across America. With the guns, without the guns, doesn't matter. They're brazen, they come in and they steal. The listim azoyan, he operates like a ganav, but he's armed. In case he encounters resistance, he's ready to use his arms, or he wants to intimidate you and just scare you off. So he breaks into your house, he hides, he operates like a ganav, but he's armed. So he's like an armed ganav. That's called listim azoyan in the Gemara. So Rabbi Yosef says that when Rabbi Yehoshua said this din of a tayin tainas ganav, we were talking about not regular ganav. He was tayin tainas ganav mezuyan, which is called listim azoyan. Call it ganav mezuyan if you want. So what happens when you do that case? So on one hand, there's when you taina that it's listim azoyan, even if you're a shomer sachar, you're making yourself exempt. You're making yourself exempt because it's an einus. It's armed robber, it's an einus. It's not like, sorry, got lost or stolen. That's the middle case. You have shia, gneva veda, and einus. When you say that it was an armed robber who came and stole it, you're an einus. So even if you're a din of a shomer sachar, which Rabbi Yosef holds you have a din of a shomer sachar, you're exempting yourself. But on the other hand, that person, even though he's armed, he will have the din like a ganav. Rabbi Yosef holds that he's going to have the din like a ganav, even though he's armed. So he should be like a gazlan and not have kaifel. No, because he operates like a ganav. He still hides from people. So this is an interesting case. The mitzad, the victim, we're considering it, we're elevating this to a case of einus because it's an armed robber. But mitzad, the perpetrator, we're still considering it a case of ganav, not a case of gazlan, because he operated like a ganav. In other words, kaifel will be there. And that's this interesting case of listim azuyim. So you could look at it from two angles, from the victim and from the ganav himself. So it still has the status of geneva for kaifel, but has the status of an einus that the victim is going to be pater, even if he's a shomer sachar. So I'll take your question in a second. So let me fear us the answer. So Rabbi Yosef says, I maintain that a shomer veda is like a shomer sachar. And this story of Rabbi Yehoshua is talking about that the shomer veda, who has a din of a shomer sachar, he claimed that Listim Azuyim took it, and therefore he was actually exempting himself because he said Listim Azuyim took it. So einus. But then we busted him to see that he actually lied, and he he still has it. Now he's going to have to pay kaifel because he was being taining ganav. He wasn't taining gazlan. He was still doing tainis ganav. That person, had it been a true story, would have had to pay kaifel according to Rabbi Yosef's view. You had a question?
Yes. The question is, if the armed robbery would make a difference in this scenario, like if he was confronted or not, if he solved the ganav.
Right. So the answer is yes. He still gets a din of a ganav. According to Rabbi Yosef, he has a din of a ganav because he operated like a ganav, and even if he ended up having to, so to say, pull the weapon, or he ended up confronting the person, he still gets the din of a ganav because he's not this person who's ready to go out in public and just be so careless. So yeah, that's what Rabbi Yosef holds. So Rabbi Yosef is able to say that I'm fine. I'm compatible with Rabbi Yechonon's din. They were talking about a tiny ganav that was mezuyan, that was armed, or it's called list of mezuyan in the Gemara, which means that you're armed, and that's what we're talking about over here. And it's a unique case where even though he's a shomer sachar, he was exempting himself by claiming it, and then when we found out that he's lying, he's going to have to pay kaifel because he was tying a taina of a person who pays kaifel. And remember, if you're tying the taina of a ganav, you pay kaifel like the ganav. And list of mezuyim, from their end, they're like a ganav that they pay kaifel. So that's what goes on here. So and for the Gemara, Amar Alei, Rav Yosef defends himself and he tells Abaya, on what was the din that Rabbi Yehoshua was talking about? It was a unique type of ganav. It was a ganav who was armed. So right away, I already explained the whole Gemara, but the way the Gemara has it, it's a drop of a back and forth. So Amar Alei, he tells him, Listim Azuyam. If it's a Listim Azuyam, Gazlanu. That's a robber. That's a gazlan. He was armed, so it's a gazlan. So then won't be kaifel here. How could you say that's the case? So he says, no. Amar Lei tells him back. Shani Aimer, I hold list the mezuya, an armed robber, kivan the mitmari inchi, because he operates in a way that he hides from people. Ganahu, from his perspective, he still has a din of a ganav where he's caught, he pays kaifel. But from the victim's perspective, it's an einus. So right now, Rav Yosef defended himself from this attack from Abaya, from the dinner of Rabbi Yehoshua. Now what the Gemara is going to do now for the next Amud, and it's a very geshmaki Gemara, what's going to happen in the next Amud is, we're going to right now focus on this Chiddush that Rabbi Yosef says, Shani Aimer, I hold that list of Mezuyim have a din like a ganav. And we're going to first do one Esvei from a Brisa. We're going to try to prove that list of Mezuyim does not have a din like a ganav. We're going to try to prove it. Rabbi Yosef will defend himself. And then we're going to try to bring another brisa, another esvei from another brisa, again, to argue on this punchline, that Listim Zayn is like a ganav, and Rabbi Yosef will defend himself. And then we're going to try to bring a brisa to actually support Rabbi Yosef, that Listim Zayn actually has a din of a ganav, and we're going to knock off that support in three ways. That's what's going to happen for the next Amud. But keep in mind that while you're learning the Gemara that we're about to learn, and we produce a very good challenge, and we prove that Listim Zayn does not have a din like a ganav, then this whole answer falls off. And if this whole answer falls off, then the kasha and Rabbi Yosef is back on. How could you hold Yezid like a Shemer Sachar? You're not compatible with the din of Chia Bar you're not compatible. You're only compatible because you wanted to come up with this unique situation that lists the Mazoyan has a din like a Ganav. But if I prove to you the Mazoyan doesn't have a din like a Ganav, this answers off, means questions back on. So that's the hemshech of the sugya. So the next question is locally, it's challenging this detail of list the Mazoyan being a Ganav. We're going to prove otherwise. But once we prove otherwise, it's reinstating the initial question. And then when we defend the answer, like, okay, so we could use this answer. That's what's going to happen. But in order to do this, we have to pause for a moment and discuss the concept of a kal v'chaimer and how it functions, because it'll be very important for both the two next ace phase are both going to quote brises, which are having kal v'chaimer, so we have to know how kal v'chaimer works. So just to tell you a cute story about a kal v'chaimer, is when I was a kid in Alitair in 6th grade, President Clinton drove down Eastern Parkway. It was a very, very big deal at the time. So before America was so partisan, everybody gave the president respect. He landed in Botanical Garden, and then he drove down Eastern Parkway all the way to what used to be called the Interborough, and that's when he renamed it to Jackie Robinson, the first African-American baseball player. I think it was 50 years or something. And it was a very big deal that President Clinton is going to be driving down Eastern Parkway for a whole week before they took away the mailboxes and no cars were allowed to park, and they trimmed the trees. And these memories, they stay with you. And the whole Alitera went down, and we lined Eastern Parkway and we watched the motorcade. It's before YouTube, when kids could see it. Today, all kids saw videos of a motorcade. At least it was a very big deal. And we had this massive sign that says Alitera welcomes President Clinton. And then we went upstairs and we davened mincha. Then Alitera had the big shul. And if you remember that, on the 3rd floor, massive shul. They would have fit 1,500 people or more. And the whole 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade used to daven mincha together. My father was the principal, used to run mincha. So I remember when he came upstairs, he said that he made a kal v'chaimer. Why do I remember it? Because the kids in my class, they made fun of me after because of the multiple shyness that my father used. Well, what happened? My father said, we're about to daven mincha to Hashem. So Ma'adach, you see how much covet you give to a melech basar v'dam. He's not even a melech, right? He's just the president. So Ma'adach, so my father said, Kol shekein v'kal v'chaimer al achas kama v'kama v'ad gevis. Melech malchim malchim kadosh baruch hu. So I remember everybody was making fun of the fact that he used all those lashonos. Kol shekein v'kal v'chaimer al achas kama v'kama v'ad gevis. How much more so? It all means the same thing. It means, in other words, we're applying one din to another, but not just applying it, we're like supporting it very, very strongly. So kal v'chaimer works exactly like that. You say, Ma'adach, in this case it's going to work, or this is how the din, or this is the halacha. So then for sure it's going to work like that in a case that we're not sure about. But now we're sure because we're applying the din. So kal v'chaimer literally means as follows. Chaimer literally means strict or heavy or strong. Kal literally means light or lenient or weak. And a kal v'chaimer could work both ways. I could learn something from the chaimer to the kal. I could learn something from the kal to the chaimer. Depends what you want to learn. So if let's say I have a short person shorter than me standing next to me, right? And the short person, is able to reach up to here. So I say, Ma'adach, a short person can reach here. For sure, the taller guy can reach here. If the kal could do it, for sure the chaimer could do it. Or we could do the other way. Let's say the tall person can't reach the ceiling. So I say, Ma'adach, he stands up and he can't reach, and the short guy's sitting, right? We don't know about the short guy. We're not sure if he can reach the ceiling, but the tall guy tries. So then we say, short guy, stay seated. Ma'adach, the tall guy can't reach the ceiling, for sure the short guy can. So when you learn from a kal v'chaimer, you can learn both ways. Usually, when it's the kal teaching the chaimer, it's Ma'adach, the kal could do it, for sure the chaimer could do it. Or when it's the other way, it's Ma'adach, the chaimer can't do it, so for sure the kal is not able to do it. So that's how kal v'chaimer works. When I'm applying a din from one place to another place, but not just like a hu adin. Sometimes the Gemara you have hu adin, like, oh, the din applies to me, it applies to you, like, because we're equal. It's not just that, it's a kal v'chaimer, there's a logic here. If it applies to him, sure it's going to apply to him because he's stricter, or for sure it won't apply to him because he's weaker, right? So that's how kal v'chaimer works. Now there's also something called in a kal v'chaimer, something called the ikal or mifrach, where you could puncture the kal v'chaimer. That even though one is a kal and one is a chaimer, so you have this really good logic. But if I find something about the kal guy that makes him a chaimer, even if it's one iota, one detail, you just ruin the whole kal v'chaimer because it's not kal v'chaimer anymore. Because in the gevis is in, this guy's the chaimer. So a classic example that one of the Rabbis in Alitair uses, I think it's a very good example. Classic example is, I could make a kal v'chomer that if you're able to lift, I can make a kal v'chomer that if you could lift 10 pounds of 10-pound weight, for sure you could lift a 5-pound weight, right? That's a great kal v'chomer. What if I want to make a kal v'chomer that if you could lift 10 pounds of a 10-pound dumbbell, 10-pound weight, right? It's like this big, it's tiny. Then for sure you could lift 5 pounds of feathers, for sure. I get technical. Maduch, you can lift this 10-pound dumbbell. That's called a dumbbell, right? With those weights. So for sure you could lift a 5-pound of a feather. So you could do an ikal mifrach. You could say no. The dumbbell you could lift is 10 pounds. Your tack is strong enough to lift 10 pounds, but it's also very small. It's easy. You can grip it. 5 pounds of feathers is massive. You just can't get your hand around the box. So on one hand, the 5 pounds of feathers is a chomer because it's huge. It might be lighter. So if I'm looking at weight, the dumbbell is the chomer and the feathers is the kal. But if I look at size, it's the opposite. So I just made ikal mifrach. So you want to bring a kal chomer, if you can lift those weights, for sure you can lift the feathers. The Gemara will say ikal mifrach. Maybe the weights he can lift because it's very grippable. If there's such a word, you could grasp it easily. The feathers, maybe it's much lighter, but it's just impossible for him to get his hands around it. So you can think of a lot of such mashalim where you could ruin the kal v'chomer. If let's say if you want to use the tall and short guy, you could say the tall guy can't reach, but he's also a big heavy guy, so he can't even jump and try to reach. Someone could be a little shorter, but he's fit and thin and whatever. He could jump higher than the big guy, right? So ikal mifrach, taka, he's taller, but he could jump higher. So he's the chomer now. So you ruin the whole kal v'chomer. So that's how kal v'chomer works, and that's how ikal mifrach works. And once we understand that, now we're going to go to a brisa. In this brisa, let's first understand the brisa for what it is, and then we're going to see how this brisa is a kasha on what we just tried making a maskana that a list of mezuyin has a din of vegana. We'll get to that. So this brisa is talking about the Dalet Shemrim. We made it akdam on today's shiur. We're talking about Dalet Shemrim. Dalet Shemrim. Each one of them have a few psukim in the Torah. There's a few psukim that talk about the Shemer Chinam in Parshas Chumash Shmos. There's a few psukim that talk about the Shemer Sachar. There's a few psukim that talk about the Shayel. There's different psukim that talk about the different Dalet Shemrim. So by the psukim of a shemer, but a psukim of a shemer chinam, it teaches us that if you're a pesheya, you're chayev, and by the psukim of a shemer sachar, it also teaches us that if you're a pesheya, you're chayev. By both of them, it says that if you're a pesheya, if you did shlichus yad, like you were negligent, you took it, you stole it yourself, you didn't take good care of it, you're going to be chayev. It says it teaches us the din of pshia sai by shemer chinam, sai by shemer sachar. So this brisa is trying to figure out why did the Torah have to teach me the din of pshia by shemer sachar. The Torah could have left it for a simple kal v'chomer. If the shemer chinam is chayev am pshia, he's patur gnei v'aveda. It's a clear pasuk that he's patur gnei v'aveda. So the shemer sachar who's chayev am gnei v'aveda, for sure he's chayev am pshia. So it's a great kal v'chomer. The Torah could have left it for a kal v'chomer. Why should the Torah reteach me that a shemer sachar is chayev am pshia? If I know that a shemer sachar is chayev am gnei v'aveda, for sure he's chayev am pshia. Could have left it to kal v'chomer. So that's what the Bryce is wondering. We're quoting the middle of the Bryce, and where we're holding is the Bryce is going to say, no, you can't leave it for that kal v'chomer, because if I'm going to leave it for a kal v'chomer, you're able to puncture that kal v'chomer. You're able to do an ikal mifrach. Why? Because there's something about a shemer chinam, even though the shemer sachar is the chomer and the shemer chinam is the kal, so you have a great kal v'chomer. No, there's something about the shemer chinam that makes him stricter. What is it? A shemer chinam, he pays kaifel, because whenever he's going to want to claim nignava, he's exempting himself. Then we bust him. We said that a tayin is ganav. We learned it from the psukim that you have to pay kaifel. So shemer chinam sometimes pays kaifel. A shemer sachar never pays kaifel, because a shemer sachar, if he says nignava, he's paying the keren because he's chayav neiva aveda. So you can't learn pshia from a kal v'chomer from shemer chinam to shemer sachar. You cannot make that kal v'chomer, because there's a certain aspect where the shemer chinam is stricter than the shemer sachar. The shemer chinam pays kaifel every time he says nignava and he gets caught. He pays kaifel. The shemer sachar never in his life pays kaifel. So now, what's the Gemara going to say? If from this brisa you see that a shemer sachar never pays kaifel, how could you tell me the story of time list of mezuyin that time list of mezuyin has a din of veganim and the guy pays kaifel? You see from this brisa, a shemer sachar never pays kaifel. But according to that answer, a shemer sachar does pay kaifel, because the shemer sachar ketaying the list of mezuyin, so it's a einus he's patur. But then if he gets caught, he's going to pay kofel because the Lustig Mezuyim has to pay kofel. It turns out that he was lying, that it was a gan of Mezuyim. He was tying his gan of Mezuyim. Turns out that he was lying. We're going to say, from the perpetrator's perspective, he has still a din of a gan. He still has a din of kofel. So there is cases where Shomer Sachar, where there are cases where Shomer Sachar pays kofel. And if there are cases where Shomer Sachar pays kofel, then the Kal V'Chomer is an awesome Kal V'Chomer. Madach Shomer Chinam Schayim Shiur, so to Shomer Sachar. The Brisa says it's not a good Kal V'Chomer because there's the Ikal Mifrach. The Ikal Mifrach is the Shomer Chinam stricter because he pays kofel. Shomer Sachar never pays kofel. I found you that the Shomer Sachar does pay kofel. So it's not going to work according to Rabbi Yosef because he created this case. The list of Mezuyim on one hand it's Einus, but on the other hand there is kofel still. So what will Rabbi Yosef do to defend himself? I'll say the whole Gemara outside and we'll just read it inside. What will Rabbi Yosef do to defend himself? He'll say, no, there's still, the Bryce is right. I'm right. Of course, he wants to maintain, right? So he's going to say, I'm right that list of Mezuyim pays kofel. That's true. And the Bryce is right, still correct to say the Shomer Chinam in one aspect is stricter than the Shomer Sachar. The Bryce is correct to say that the Shomer Chinam in one aspect is stricter than Shomer Sachar. Because the Shomer Chinam always pays kofel. Whenever he says Nignava, if he's tying his God, and then later we catch him lying, every case he's going to pay kofel, always by Shomer Chinam. Shomer Sachar only pays kofel in a very rare case. He only pays kofel if he was tying a gan of Mezuyim, aka list of Mezuyim. Only then will he pay kofel. So there's still something about the Shomer Chinam that's stricter. Shomer Chinam always pays kofel. Shomer Sachar only in one far-fetched case pays kofel. So Shomer Chinam is stricter. Shomer Chinam stricter. You can't make a Kal V'Chomer from Shomer Chinam to Shomer Sachar. The Shomer Chinam is sometimes the Chomer. Got it? Clear? Anybody have any questions? We could do that inside. Geschmack Gemara, no? Yeah. This is hard for the kids. The answer, that was a good question. The answer is this Gemara could be hard for certain Talmudim. Well, that's why if you come to the Shiur and you are able to hopefully understand it well, you can try to help your kid through it because they could understand it, the kids. But first you have to what the rabbis do first, they spend like a day just talking about Kal V'Chomers, how Kal V'Chomers work, what's a Kal, what's a Chomer, making up Mishalom. The kids have to create their own Mishalom of Kal V'Chomer, make sure they understand that logic, and then how you make it Ikla Mifrach. So we gave our own little mashal. We have to do that a lot with the kids. And then you can try to learn this Gemara with them, and a lot of kids get it. But I will agree that for some kids, this is considered one of the harder pieces in this Perek, and it's hard for them.
For Yosef's, I think that's harder to understand simply, right? Like why should someone who finds out Veda be considered like a Shomer Sachar?
Right.
But the reason we attacked Rabbi originally is because we had Brises, and now we're going like to lesser and lesser cases of.
The first 2 or 3 questions were on Rabbah from Brises, but we did one on Rabbi Yosef from a Brisa too, and now we're doing one on Rabbi Yosef from the Amirayim.
It's not that we're going from like stronger to lesser.
No, the Gemara is doing the Mefarshim actually. For some other reason, they get into a whole thing like which question happened first. They want to prove that really one of the later questions took place in the Beis Medrash first. That's a whole separate story for now. But what they say is the Gemara organized that first are all the questions on Rabbah, and then are all the questions on Rabbi Yosef. That's one thing that the Mefarshim do say. That's organized like that. First Rabbah, Rabbi Yosef. We don't switch back and forth. Question Rabbah, question Rabbi Yosef. So now we're on all the Rabbi Yosef questions. What?
There was one question.
No, the beginning, the first Esvei was Rabbi Yosef to Rabbah. The second question was Rabbi Yosef to Rabbah. The third one, I think, as well. The fourth one already was the other way, and now today we learned the fifth one. That from the Mirayim, though. It wasn't from a Brisa, but it was also the other way. And now we're on the sixth one. It's from a Brisa, but it's not from a Brisa that we're proving about a din of a Shomer Aveda. Clearly, we're proving about what's the din of a list of Mezuyim. Does he have a din like a Ganev or not? Which will knock off that answer, which will put the question back on as we elaborated before. So we already explained this whole Gemara, this first Esvei. It's the last word of the line on Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. So now we can just do it inside without explaining again. Esvei, they asked the kasha. Oh, not they. It's Abaya continuing with Rav Yosef. So I believe Abaya asked the question on Rav Yosef. How could you want to say that list of Muzin is a din of a Ganav? I have a problem. The Brisa says as follows. We're getting the Brisa. We're in the middle of a story. The Brisa says, "Lo, no, you're not able to learn out that a Shomer Sachar is chayiv b'shia from a Kal V'Chomer from Shomer Chinam." Okay, well, you can't. So when you're learning with a kid, first you have to understand what would have the Kal V'Chomer been, right? But the Gemara is right away saying, well, you can't do that. Why? Because you could slug it up. Because just because you say by Shem Rechinam that he's Chayvim Shia, I could tell you because there's a part of him that's Chaymer. Shekem Misham Tashlemi Kaifel, Hashem Rechinam pays Kaifel, Taimer B'Shem Resachar, Shekem Misham Tashlemi Kaifel. Could I then prove that Hashem Resachar also is Chayvim Shia? Hashem Resachar on one hand is weaker, he never pays Kaifel. That's the brisa. End. Now the Gemara is using this brisa. If Rav Yosef, you're correct to say the list of Muzayim has a din of a ganav and the guy does pay kaifel, nimsa, we found the case b'shem resachar. Tumtai said there is a file of b'shem resachar, whereas mishal into shlomi kaifel, where b'shem resachar does have kaifel. What case will it be? B'tayin tainas list of Muzayim. According to you, it will work out well when he tainas list of Muzayim. From the brayse, it implies that Shem resachar never pays kaifel. According to you, there is a case where Shem resachar pays kaifel. Amarle, so Rav Yosef answers back to Baya. He says, no, this is how you're supposed to learn the brisa. Haki ka'amar, this is what the brisa means to say. Loi, you can't learn a kal v'chaymer from Shem Rechinam to Shem Resachar that it's chayiv amshia, and the Torah had to say it clearly. Why? Because imam b'Shem Rechinam, just because you're going to say it by Shem Rechinam, Shem Rechinam is a chamer. Shekem misham tashlomi kaifel b'chol tamaisav. Shem Rechinam always pays kaifel. Timer b'Shem Resachar she'eni misham tashlomi kaifel. I'm able to now apply the din of Pshiyat to Shem Resachar, who never pays kaifel. Ella b'tayin danis list Mizayin. Only in one random case, on list Mizayin, only then he pays kaifel. But in general, not. So the Shem Rechinam is still stronger. So therefore, it's not a good kal v'chaymer, and therefore the Bryce is explaining why the Torah had to teach me Pshiyah by Shem Rechinam and Pshiyah by Shem Resachar, because there's no kal v'chaymer, even though I hold that list of Mizayim Zaganev, and even though, according to me, there is one foul that Hashem Resachar pays kaifel, we have one case. But by the Hashem Rechinam, it's all the cases that he pays kaifel. All times he tainas ganev. Doesn't have to taina ganev mezuyim. Anytime he says ganev, there's kaifel if we catch him. So therefore, Rav Yosef defends himself. Fine. Eisvei. Now's the next question on that statement from Rav Yosef that a ganev is a din of list of mezuyim. It's also a brisa that's dealing with the Daled Shemrim and dealing with this whole idea about why don't we use kal v'chaymers? Why don't we use kal v'chaymers? So in this brisa says as follows. The brisa is as follows. By the shayel is the Dal Shem, the one who's most strict. He's chayv on Shia, he's chayv on Gnei Vaveda, he's chayv on Einis also. So the Gemara says, Eisvei, Abai asks as follows. It says in the Torah by the shayel, v'nishbar oimes, that if the animal, while the shayel is using it, the animal broke or died, like either got like injured, and it's not workable anymore, and something happened, broke a leg or whatever it is, maybe even permanent damage, or it died. So Shayel's chayav, but Shayel pays for everything, besides for some unique cases, but otherwise the Shayel pays for everything. So over there, the Brisa says, so by Shayel, we know that he's chayav in Einis. How do we know that he's chayav in Gnei Vaveda? So the Brisa says it's a pasha to kal v'chaymer. It's a great kal v'chaymer, because if a shaymer sachar is chayav and gnei v'aveda, he's pater on einis. If the Torah is going to teach me clearly that a shayel's chayav on einis, for sure he's going to be chayav and gnei v'aveda, which is even more chayav than an einis. In other words, the shaymer sachar is chayav on gnei v'aveda, and he's pater on einis. If the Shemer Sachar is chayiv on Einis, for sure he's going to be chayiv on Gnei Vaveda. So therefore, the Torah doesn't have to teach me explicitly that a shayel is chayiv on Gnei Vaveda. You can learn it from a kal v'chaymer. That's what the Bryce is saying. So Eisvei Rabbi asks, it says by a shayel v'nishbar meis that if it broke or it died, that the person has to pay. Ainli elash v'rameis. I only know that if it broke or died, Gnei Vaveda minayin. Where do I know that a shayel pays Gnei Vaveda, which is even a step down? So Amris kal v'chaymer. You could say a kal v'chaymer. Uma Shemer Sachar. Madach by Shemer Sachar. Sherpater by Shvuro Mesa. Madach Shemer Sachar. The Madach by Shemer Sachar. Sorry, I don't know why I'm going to stop. I'm sorry. Uma Shemer Sachar. Sherpater by Shvuro Mesa. Madach by Shemer Sachar. That he's pater on Einis. Chayav b'Gnei Vaveda. He's clearly going to be chayav on Gnei Vaveda. Shayel shechayav b'Shvuro Mesa. A shayel who's chayav for an Einis. Wouldn't it be an obvious? Isn't it obviously the din that he's going to be chayv in Gnei Vaveda as well? And the Brisa concludes this is a great kal v'chaymer, and there's no way that you can refute this kal v'chaymer. So this Brisa is not saying. Last Brisa we learned the Brisa said You can't use this Kal V'chomer because of this Pircha. That's why the Torah had to actually teach you Pshia twice. This price is very different. This price is actually teaching us with a great Kal V'chomer why the Torah didn't need to teach me that a Shoyel is Chayiv on Neva Veda. Because if he's Chayiv on Einis, for sure he's Chayiv on Neva Veda. Because the Shomer Sachar is Chayiv on Neva Veda, not on Einis. So if the Shoyel is Chayiv on Einis, for sure he's going to be Chayiv on Neva Veda. And it's a great Kal V'chomer. The price even ends off. Zel Kal V'chomer Shein Lov Tshuva. This is a Kal V'chomer. You cannot ask any questions in it. Tshuva doesn't mean answer, it means reply. Meaning you can't say anything back to me. This is rock solid. What?
don't have a reason why.
The Torah doesn't say it. The Torah actually does not say Gneva Veda by Shoyel because it leaves it for a Kal V'chomer because we have an excellent Kal V'chomer. The Torah does not say Gneva Veda, but we know it from a Kal V'chomer. That's the truth till today. That's how it is. So that's the Brisa. Now we're going to use this Brisa again to try to prove that Rav Yosef was wrong that a Ganav has a din like a Listim Zoyin. Why? So he says, V'i Sal Kadaita. If you're going to want to maintain Listim Zoyin Ganavu, that Listim Zoyin has the din of a Ganav. Amai Einel of Tshuva. Why can't we figure out some kind of equal mifrach on this Kal V'chomer if Listim Zoyin is a Ganav? In other words, if you hold up a Shomer Sachar, there's a foul of Kaifel, I can now make a great Pircha. And I could say, you want to make a Kal V'chomer because Shomer Sachar is down here and Shoyel's up here, but I found something that makes the Shomer Sachar stronger. Shomer Sachar has Kaifel. A Shoyel never, ever, ever has Kaifel. Where does the Shomer Sachar have Kaifel? Because Listim Zoyin Ganavu. So according to you, Rabbi Yosef, the Listim Zoyin Ganavu, how does this Brisa say I have a rock solid Kal V'chomer and don't even try to slug it up? We have an awesome slug up. A Shoya, a Shomer Sachar, in a certain aspect is the Chomer, knocks off your Kal V'chomer, punctures it. It's an equal mifrach. So let's do it inside. If you're going to want to hold the Listim Zoyin Ganavu, the Listim Zoyin has a Ganav, Amai Einel of Tshuva. Why is there no question on this Kal V'chomer? Equal mifrach. We could ask as follows: Ma l'Shomer Sachar. How could you learn out from a Shomer Sachar? You're considering him a Kal. But l'chura you can't because he's a chaymer. Shekein mishalem tashlumi kaifel, but time is listed as zoyon. The Shomer Sachar does pay kaifel when he times listed as zoyim, and a shoyel never pays kaifel. So on one hand, the Shomer Sachar is the chamer, so your whole Kal V'chomer is off. So I'm later, Yosef defends himself. He says, no. Even though you found one random case that a Shomer Sachar pays kaifel, a Shoyel is still stricter and it's still a good Kal V'chomer. Why? Because of this concept. Karna b'lei shvua, adifa mekfela b'shvua. To maybe once in a while get kaifel. How does kaifel happen? The guy has to tie into this random case of tying to his Listim. Then he has to go to Bezdin and swear, I don't have this thing anymore. I swear that it was Listim who took it. Then we have to bring Eidim to say, you still have it, and now he's going to pay kaifel. That happens once in a blue moon. A shoyel always pays. No matter what happens, you get your money back. That's much more powerful.
But that whole step is what we're talking about for everything else in the day.
So Rabbi was going to say that this Tana holds that Karna b'lei shvua is a difa mekfela b'shvua. So therefore, that's why I was able to make this good Kal V'chomer. So I tell the kids, what would you rather? If I make a raffle, let's say 2 kids. Make a raffle that one of you might win 2 slices of pizza, or you know what, you each get 1. What do the kids always choose? I get 1, you get 1. God, I don't want to maybe win 2 slices. I'd rather get 1 for sure, right? So that's basically what this Tana holds. That the Shoyel always pays. You lend the guy, you go home, you're relaxed. You're the owner, you're relaxed. You know, no matter what's going to happen to my animal, besides for the unique cases of Balavimai or Mesimachas Malacha, but no matter what happens, Pshia, Veda, every ein is basically the Shoyel is going to have to pay me back. That Shoyel is a chaymer. The Gabe, the Shomer Sachar, who does not have to pay me back for any einsim, and never pays me kaifel. Besides for one random case, he pays me kaifel. It doesn't make him stronger. It doesn't knock off the Kal V'chomer. According to this Tana, it's still a Kal V'chomer because the Shoyel is way more chaymer because he's always paying Karen. It's better than the maybe kaifel.
Can't say the same thing when you're comparing a Shomer Sachar to a Shomer Chino. At the end of the day, so there's going to be a case.
Right. So I believe them first will talk about this. I don't want to say for sure, but it's a good question. And in other words, this is not matching what we said on the top of the page.
Right.
It could be it's even Taisus here that talks about it. I don't remember, so I don't want to see for sure. And I believe what they say is they're basically saying that this Tana, the Tanaim hold differently. This Tana holds Karna b'lei shvua is adif from Mekil b'shvua. The other Tana may have not held that. In other words, we could argue if that's true. If Karna B'lei Shvua is a different Mekfil B'Shvua, should it not have a Kalvachim or should it not? Could be a Machlekes Tanaim for us. Rabbi Yosef is defending himself. Yeah, but he's defending himself.
And gamblers don't always rather
Well,
gamble.
What do you mean?
Rather gamble. The fact is, some people like to take the push and some people say.
Yeah, but it depends how much the gamble is, right? They'll spend a $1 ticket to maybe win $1 billion lottery. It's worth it for you. You only lost $1, but you're not going to spend thousands of dollars to maybe win, a few thousand more because you're not ready to. Yeah, it's another way to look at it. Kind of like shua, different mekfil b'shua. So let's see that inside. So Amar lei, Rabbi Yosef even uses the words, by the way, of kasavar haitano. So I'm pretty sure that's the pshat. So Amar lei, Rabbi Yosef says kasavar haitana. This Tana who uses this as a solid kavachimer, he holds the following: that karna b'lei shvua adifa mikfela b'shvua. The shayl is a chamer because the shayl is always paying karen, and the guy who always pays karen is stronger than the guy who once in a blue moon pays kaifel. It's still a very, very, very good kavachimer. Fine. So we had one Eisvei on Rabbi Yosef because he said this din about Lustig Mazoyan. Then we had a second Eisvei, which was just now, and Rabbi Yosef defended himself. Now, for the rest of today's shir, we only have like 5 minutes left. It might go drop longer, but we're going to finish to the new sugya. The rest of today's shir, this is what's going to happen. Here's the overview. Now we're going to say, not a question, the opposite. We're going to say, Lema Misayele. Perhaps I'm going to find now a Mishnah that's going to support Rabbi Yosef that Lustig Mazoyan has a din of a ganav. It's going to look like a great support. So let's look at it for what it is. Then the Gemara is going to say for 3 reasons it's not a good support. A, B, C, support's off. Not a question, but you can't prove from here. But the Gemara is initially going to try to make a proof. Zak the Gemara. So what's that proof? So we're holding the words Limim Masayele. I'll just give a brief aktama. The brief aktama is that if I'm your shamer, you give me something to watch, right? I'm a shamer chinam, let's say. Let's say I'm a shamer chinam. You give me something to watch. And it got stolen. And if I'm a shamer chinam, it got stolen, I'm putter, right? So you come over to me and say, hey, I want my iPhone back. Thank you for watching it for me. I say, I'm so sorry it got stolen. Okay, it got stolen. You have to go to bed, you have to swear that it got stolen, and you'll be putter. The guy says, I don't want to swear. I don't like to do that stuff. I'll pay you back. I'm not chayav to pay you, but I'm going to pay you back. Here's the money back. He actually pays them, or he just commits to pay. He says, don't take me to Bezin. I'm not swearing. It really got stolen. I'm not lying to you, but I'm paying you back. I feel bad. I'm a shomer. You gave it to me to watch. I feel bad that I might be able to return it to you. I'm a nice guy. Paying you back. I'm being responsible. Paying you back. Fine, good. Life is good. Pays him back. Or doesn't even yet pay him back, but he commits to pay him back. That's a whole sugya on Good. And then now we catch the ganav. So the halacha is because the shomer was such a nice guy, and the shomer went and paid back his owner, didn't make him worry about losing his money. If the ganav is taka found and there is kaifel, the shomer gets the kaifel. He's the one who gets awarded the kaifel because he's the one who took the loss. He's the one who had money out of his pocket right now. So he's the one, if there's a case of kaifel, the kaifel will go to him. That's this price that we're going to learn right now. And then we're going to see how it's a leiman misayeli. So leiman misayeli, perhaps we could bring a support to Rabbi Yosef. That Lustig Mazoyan has a din of a ganav, that there's kaifel, because the story was like this. Now, here's the key word over here. This is where it gets tricky. We're talking about one of the Dal Shomrim that we never spoke about yet. One of the Dal Shomrim is a soicher. Now, what's the din of a seicher? Is he like a shemer chinam, shemer sacher, or shayel? So it's actually machlokes tanaim. But the default, meaning the halacha, is that a seicher is exactly like a shemer sacher. Guy who rents, he's able to use it. He's paying to use it, but he's having enough from it. So he's like a shemer sacher because he's having enough from it, and he's chayiv amshich, chayiv never made a pater anonymous. The seicher is exactly like a shemer chinam. So we're talking about a seicher. Seicher par mechaveir. I rent a cow from you. No, there's a no. Everybody else shemer sacher. There's a machlekes if a seicher has a din of a shemer sacher. There's an opinion that he has a din of a shemer chinam. But the halacha is, and the default is that a seicher is like a shemer sacher. Meaning to say, just like a blot ago, there was a machlekes amirayim. If a shemer aveda is like a shemer chinam or shemer sacher, there's a machlekes tanaim about the din of a seicher, one of the dalal shemerim, if he's like a shemer chinam or shemer sacher. But the halacha is with Kobol and Shas. The halacha is in the Stam Mishnah is that he's like a shemer sacher. That's what the halacha is till today.
Whether you're paying for that benefit of not having to be responsible. Why would he be like a shemer chinam?
Why would he be like a shemer chinam? Because he's paying to use it. He's not having anah. He's actually paying to have anah.
Right.
The other person says no. He's like a shemer sacher, even though he's paying to use that. Fact is, he's benefiting from the object. He's obviously wants to rent it because he wants to have anah from this thing. So that's what their argument is. The svarsa of the argument. So The story is that a guy is a Seicher Par Mechabeira, he rents a cow from his friend. And Vinignava, and it got stolen. And the masker, the guy who rented it out to him, comes and he says, please, where is it? I want it back. The Seicher says, I'm going to pay you back. I have no intention of swearing that it got stolen. Later the Gana was found. So Mashanta Shemikayfel, the Karim has to be careful to who? This is the Chiddush of this Brisa, was Seicher. Because this Seicher agreed to pay instead of swearing, this Seicher is going to right now get the Kaifel. Now here's where the Gemara kicks in. So Vrua, these people are bringing the Lema Mesayele, they hold to Rabbi Yehuda. They're the ones, they hold that this Brisa is going like Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? The Amar, he says, Seicher Kenoise Sacher Dami. That a Seicher is like a Shemer Sacher. Okay, we have to half cup over here. He says that this Brisa is probably going like Rabbi Yehuda. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? He's of the opinion, which is the halachic opinion, that a Seicher has a din like a Shemer Sacher. From the fact that it says in this Brisa that the Seicher says, you know what, I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to pay. I don't want to have to swear. It's mashma that what? That he did have the choice to swear and do what? And exempt himself, right? How? If he's saying that it was nignava, and if a Seicher is a din of a Shemer Sacher, if he says nignava, he's not exempting himself. If you hold that a Seicher has a din like the Shemer Sacher, and you're timing nignava, you're not exempting yourself. How are you exempting yourself? You're saying nignava, you're chayiv to pay. And there won't be, how does that work? So from the fact that our Brisa says that this guy says Areini Mishalim Ve'eni Nishba, and therefore the Brisa ends off special, then that he'll get the koifel when the koifel comes. It's mashma that he did Areini Mishalim Ve'eni Nishba. Mashma, there was a route of going where he could be Nishba, and he could be swear. He could swear, make himself utter. How? By saying what? Nignava, that it got stolen, because that's the story that happened, that it actually got stolen. Nignava would make him chayiv. It must be that there's a case that when he tied his nignava, that he's exempting himself. Oh, which case is that? Must say list of mazuyin. And what does the Brisa say later? And when the Ganav is found, when these lists of mazuyin are found, then there's kaifel, give the kaifel to the Seicher. So the only way to understand this Brisa is by agreeing with Rabbi Yosef that list of mazuyin exists. So then you have a scenario where a Seicher on one hand could say, Nignava, I have a choice to swear and be pater, but I'm a good guy. I'm going to do Hareini Mishalim Ve'eni Nishba, but I have the choice to be Nishba and be pater. How? How does he have that choice? It's not even an option. Oh, it must be that he's tithing list of mazuyin because it makes him an oinus, so it's going to make him pater. And then we say when that Ganav is found, which Ganav? The Ganav of this Brisa, that list of mazuyin Ganav is found, and he pays kaifel, give the kaifel to the Seicher. It means that there's kaifel by a list of mazuyin. There's no other way to learn this Brisa. It's a great support. All right, let's do it inside. So the Gemara says, "Umidiktani," from the fact that it says, "Va'amar hareini mishalim," that this Seicher said, "I will pay." Beini nishba, and I won't swear. Michlal is from them. Gedrungen the ibai. If he wanted to, he could have hatilei nafshe b'shvua. He could have exempted himself by swearing that it was stolen. Heichidami, but how? It must be Kagain the Katayin Tinus listum Zoyan. It must be that he was tiny listum Zoyan and he was making himself an Inus because he's a Seicher and he's Skayev on Gneva. So it must be that he was tiny listum Zoyan and he was making himself an Inus. He was making himself Pater. But then the Brisa continues the Katani that later the Ganav was found. The Kaifel should go to the Seicher. So you see that there's Kaifel, Shmami na, list Mizoyim, Ganavu, we have a riot to Yosef, list Mizoyim is like a Ganav, that on one hand, the guy who tines it gets treated like an Inus. On the other hand, the guy who did it, the list of Mizoyim, they get treated like a Ganav and they pay Kaifel. So for the Gemara, sorry, this is not such a rock solid proof. And for a few obvious reasons. So Amri, they say, first of all, mi sabris. So then how to Rabbi Yehuda that this Brisa goes like Rabbi Yehuda, Amr Seicher Knesset Sacher Dami. That this Brisa goes like Rabbi Yehuda, and then you have this whole proof. If it's like Rabbi Yehuda, and he holds as a Don Kasher Sacher, what must the case be? No, this Brisa is our mayor. And that's why this Brisa works so beautifully. This Brisa is our mayor, who holds that a nice Sacher has a din like a Shemechinam, and when the guy tied a Nignava, he was exempting himself because he has a din of a Shemechinam, not because of a whole list of Muzayim case. So they say, Mi Sabris Rabbi Yehuda. So then also that this Brisa has to go like Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar Seicher Knesset Sacher Dami. Dilma, perhaps This price is going like the opinion of Rameir. It doesn't say the name of the person in the price. The Amar Rameir holds that a Seicher is like Kashem Rechinam Dami. Seicher is like Kashem Rechinam, and that price it makes perfect sense because the Seicher is a din of Kashem Rechinam. So when the guy came to the Seicher, he said, "Where's my animal? He got stolen." Yeah, the guy had an option to say stolen and swear and be patur because Hashem Rechinam, Seicher, who's like Hashem Rechinam, to swear that it was nignav and be patur. He chose to pay. He gets awarded the kafel. We're talking about a regular ganav.
It's logical giving a stuff. Same price as a
You mean a Seicher?
Why would a Seicher be like Shem?
So we spoke about it before because the Seicher, he's paying to have this object. A Shemer Sachar, why do we hold him more accountable? You're making money off this job. The Seicher, not just he's not making money, he's losing money. He actually has to pay you to watch it. He gets to use it, but he's paying you. He's renting it from you. So he's like a Shemer Chinam. I'm doing you a favor. Not just I'm doing you a favor, I'm watching it for you. I'm paying you to use it. You could argue, obviously, that's the argument. What? Well,
Rent the car, you're responsible to return it to where you got it.
exactly, exactly. But you're paying the guy who gave you the car. You're not doing him this massive favor. Well, yeah, you are. This guy, you're paying him to use the car. You're doing him a big favor. They want to rent you the car. Well, I'm not talking about American law, but I'm talking about the Tanaim argue this detail. So that's one answer why it's not an answer. It's one reason why this is not such a strong proof. Maybe this price was Rameir, and then the price that makes total sense. You don't have to say is a raya that's listed Mizuyan. That's number one. Number two, interesting. It's the same dechia, but it's just different names. Number two is if you want to make this price of Yehuda, you can. There's an Amayra who says machlef. This famous machlekes. If Shemer Sacher has a din like a Shemer Chinam, or if a Seicher has a din like Shemer Chinam or Shemer Sacher, we have the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda who says Shemer Sacher. The opinion of Meir who says Shemer Chinam. There's a Amayra that says kedamachlef. It's mixed up. Really, it's a Meir who held that Shemer Sacher and Rabbi Yehuda Shemer Chinam. So the Gemara's second dechia is you want to keep this price of Rabbi Yehuda, keep it. But maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda who holds that as a din of Shemer Chinam, and that's why the price makes sense. Then Nignava you would have been pater. That there was an option to swear and be pater because you have a din like a Shemer Chinam. Even Rabbi Yehuda holds that, and there was an option to be pater. You went into that arena Mishalim. Oh, you're a good guy. Here's the kaifel. If we find the gamma, you're gonna get it. So eBay same, or if you want, you can maintain, keep it that it's Rabbi Yehuda, no problem. However, kedemach Rabbi Baravua. It could be it's like Rabbi Baravua switches it around the Tani, and he learns the Mishnah or the Brisa about the Seicher as follows: that Seicher by Seicher Kates and Mishalim Rameir is the one who says Kashem Sacher, and Rabbi Yehuda is the one who Aimer Kashem Rechinam. It's Kashem Rechinam. That's the second dechia. And the third dechia that we're going to end the shir with that is Reb Zera. Reb Zera says something very interesting. He says something very cute. He says you can't bring a raya from here that list of Muslim has kaifel. Why? Maybe Taka, the Seicher has a din like a Shemer Sacher. Okay? The Seicher has a din like a Shemer Sacher. So the only way he was exempting himself, that we say he could have exempted himself and he paid, he's such a good guy, here's the kaifel. The only way he could have exempted himself, he can't tie in a nignava, because if he has a din like a Shemer Sacher, he's chayav. He could only tie in a list of Mezuyim. So we're Taka learning that he's tying a list of Mezuyim. So now what was your proof? Now later, when the Ganav is found, he pays kaifel, you see list of Mezuyim. He says, no, later when the Ganav was found, it turned out the evidence was that the guy was never listed Mezuyim. So that's why they paid kaifel, because they were real Ganavim. The guy tied it when he came to him and he said, he comes to the Seicher, he says, Mr. Seicher, where's the para? The guy says, you know what happened? Robbers came and stole. They were armed robbers. So he's making himself pater because he's tiny kindness. Then we actually catch these robbers. Turns out that they were never armed. You have it in the news all the time. Cops shoot a guy, they think he's armed. Turns out it was fake gun. They weren't armed. It looked like a gun. He held his hand. They weren't armed. So then that's why there's kaifel. Not because I can prove to you that by list of Muzayim there's kaifel. It's talking about the guy tying the list of Muzayim. So he made himself pater, but he was anyways a good guy and said, I'm not going to go swear that it was list of Muzayim. I'd rather just go and pay you. So we say, oh, you're such a tzaddik. If we ever catch them, the kaifel will go to you. Why was there kaifel? Not because list of Muzayim have kaifel, because when we caught them, they turned out to be glate ganavim. They were not Muzayim at all, so they had to pay kaifel. He gets the kaifel. That's Reb Zera's answer. Reb Zera says, Reb Zera Amar, what are we talking about in this price? He was tying this list of Mazuyan, so it was an Einis, but he didn't want to pay it. He didn't want to make himself pater, so he went in and paid. However, when they were caught, they didn't so list of Shayna Mazuyan, so there was kaifel involved. So that ends today's share. Thank you for joining. This was a real brings you back to the yeshiva days. You gotta This is not an easy Gemara for the kids. Not an easy Gemara, but if your son can chop it, this is geschmack. This is not other Gemara is not real, but this is real Gemara. This is real geschmack Gemara. It takes a while. It takes time. It takes time.
Last year.
Well, first of all, they have to make sure that some teachers say they survey their class. They see, these kids are not yet Bucky in the Dal Shem. They should have been, but they're not. So first you have to know this Gemara, you have to have a lot of facts. First of all, you have to know the Dal Shem and what they're each chayav on. Then you have to understand the idea of Listim and Zuyim, Zigan and Gazlan. And then you have to know how Kal V'chemers work. And then you have to know how Ikul Mifrachs work. Right? So there's a lot of pieces they got to put together to really top what's going on there. But it's Befair is doable. But from the whole Hakones, it's one of the harder pieces. There's no question about it.
Knowing what the Bryce is talking about without seeing funny.
Yeah, you have to know the whole beginning of the Bryce starts with a middle line. Can't use that Kal V'chemer. So yeah. Anyways, thank you, Rabbi Argun, for hosting. We're going to end the recording.
Thank you.